My name is Astrud Aurelia. I'm 22 years old. I identify as genderqueer at the moment, but that seems to be currently evolving and shifting. And because of that, I don't really have any preferred pronouns at the moment. I lean towards she, her, especially when I'm in drag. But when I'm out of drag, I don't mind he, him, but there are still so many people who refer to me as she, her, that I'm cool with all of it. My sexual orientation is generally penis. I have yet to be attracted to a cisgender woman. At least it's been a very, very long time since I have. But I'm open to all of it.
Were there any signs or feelings in your childhood?
Yeah, this is actually something I think about a lot actually. There were so many signs growing up. There's pictures of me from when I was 5 or 6 years old in dresses that I just begged my mother to buy me. Just these like ice skating dresses and like Disney princess dresses at the Disney store. And I always held on to those photos and I thought they were cute and funny like my whole life. But there became a certain age where I kind of decided, mainly for myself, that wasn't like something that I could be like taken seriously doing. Like I couldn't put on a dress and have people think of me as a mentally stable, like sane person. And it kept me from pursuing those things for a long time, and I think I sort of took that passion that I had for design and clothing and fashion and kind of moved it elsewhere. I found a lot of comfort in video games, and I found comfort in powerful female characters that I connected to in those video games, and I was really into designing characters. I wanted to be a video game concept artist. So I was drawing all these badass women in their crazy fantasy sci-fi armor and weapons and outfits and everything. And I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was really doing was fashion design.
When did you start questioning your gender? Is there an age, place, or an event?
When I really started thinking about it more was when I started doing drag. That's when I really realized, and I was able to reflect on my life up to this point, and I realized it was a little bit deeper than I had anticipated. And the way that I felt doing drag and looking like this meant so much more to me than I thought it would.
How did you learn what being genderqueer was?
I had some friends who identified as they, them in high school, and that was their pronouns rather, sorry. Preferred pronouns. And I got to learn through my friends who identified as non-binary, what that meant, and kind of adapting my language to the new pronouns and trying to come to understand that as I was trying to sympathize and empathize with my close friends who were going through that experience. And I think that's the first place that I gained a well-rounded perspective about it. But it didn't immediately strike me as something that I identified with at the time. Maybe it's because I didn't necessarily identify with the specific struggles that they were going through. When I started to identify as gay, there was never a moment where I made a big Facebook status and I told my parents, and it was sit everybody down and say, hey, I'm gay. It was just I realized it myself, and that was a whole personal struggle. It was mostly an internal thing. Coming out to myself was a lot harder than it was coming out to other people. So I guess I did come out as gay, but I never had the same experience coming out as genderqueer. I think because drag allowed it for me to be such a gradual process. As I did more drag, I found myself connecting to specific elements of drag that I would bring into my everyday life, my boy self, if you will. And I found myself looking for different hairstyles and just trying to feminize myself on the daily, and that was an empowering moment for me. All that, those moments specifically in my mind are empowering, and that's actually something that I'm continuing to do.
Can you tell me about your first time cross-dressing in public, whether it was a drag experience or not?
So my first time going out in drag, I was convinced, because I had such a strong concept of who I was style-wise and and who my inspirations were and what my references were, my music choices. I had such strong opinions about those types of things even before I was involved in the drag community at all, that I really thought people weren't going to like me. Because I thought that, okay, Phoenix, Arizona, not a culture mecca at all, not a fashion place, not a place that appreciates like a lot of different styles of music. And I thought they were going to be like, who the fuck is this bitch? Get her off. Why is she not doing Ariana Grande and like wearing titties? You know what I mean? Like, why is that not happening? And I was so shocked to find that people really connected with my experience and really connected with what I was doing. And people immediately took me for somebody who was unique. And that's something that I'm incredibly grateful for, because it's something that I didn't expect and something that I think a lot of people look for, you know, when they're going through that thing. Maybe not even just as a drag queen, but just like when it comes to identity.
Was this night like pushed by a friend? Did anyone go with you?
No, I went completely by myself. I was at kind of a dark place in my life. I went to school for music performance. I'm a musician. Was going for jazz, playing drum set and upright bass. And I was really disconnected with my peers. I felt that the jazz musicians and that whole culture was very machismo and not really appreciative of my like queer aesthetic. I literally ran into a queen who was competing at a Goodwill shopping for heels. Like I went in with a friend of mine and we were like, oh, let's look for heels. And we were like walking around the shoe section and I saw another like tall man looking for heels as well. And I was like, hey, like, are you looking for heels too? Like, are you a drag queen? And he was like, yeah, I am actually, and I'm competing in this competition. You should do it. And I showed up the next season, and he beat me that season. But then I won the next season. And it was kind of a drag boot camp. Like, they had us do two different themed performances every Tuesday night for like 8 weeks. And that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody who's just starting drag. So like go out every Tuesday night with 2 new full complete looks, to 2 full complete new lip syncs, like when you're just trying to figure things out. But it really kicked my ass and really pushed me to improve really fast. And I'm very thankful for it.
What is the first makeup item you remember wearing?
You know, I used to do a lot of musical theater, and we had to do makeup. Like even like the boys had to like put on light makeup just to make our faces like more visible on stage. But I had to do like face paint and like conceptual makeup for like when I was like the role of a dog, you know, in theater. And I always thought that was fun. But it was never something that really like gripped me. Like makeup itself was never a fascinating thing to me until I discovered drag. I really realized how much makeup can transform your face into a whole new thing, and that like power of transformation was what initially interested me. Like I was so fascinated with like the technicality of it.
Tell me about coming out.
Yeah, the first time I was into a guy, I was in 8th grade, I think. The first time I was at least like, I mean, I'd had a lot of homoerotic experiences when I was like in kindergarten and like really young. And I think I kind of held on to those memories as negative experiences that happened to me, things that I was ashamed of. Yeah, I kind of pushed those at the back of my mind and just was like, no, I'm not gay. Like that's made up excuses for it. Like, oh no, that's something that, you know, everyone goes through when they're in puberty. Like they just experiment and try things. And it's not me though. I love gay people, but I'm not one. I'm straight. I had a friend in 8th grade who I met that I was so unbelievably attracted to, like desperately in love with, that it forced me to like confront my feelings, because every time that I was with him I just like wanted to break down and start crying because I was so like head over heels for him, and I'm still like shattered to this day like by that situation. He's actually the guy that like I think my type roots like from. Like at first I was only into guys who like looked like him, and gradually it has the branches have spread out, and now I'm into all different types of guys, but they all kind of come back to like his physical traits. You know what I mean? I am a person who kind of faces my struggles by talking about them. It starts slow. I'll tell one person about it, we'll have a conversation about it, and I'll think about it. Talk to another person, see what they think. Talk to another person, see what they think. And it's not even so much to get their opinions as much as it is that I process things by speaking it out loud. So I think the first person I told was this girl in my math class, like random girl in my math class, and I was like, I think I might be like into a guy, and they're like, that's great. But the more people I talked to about it, and the more I confronted it out loud, you know, the more I was like okay with it, the more I was accepted it for myself, and I kind of fall into that now a lot because of that experience. I definitely feel like I didn't have to come out because of that. Like I didn't have to like make a grand entrance to the world because I sort of like tiptoed my way. Like some people like to jump into the pool like from the deep end like full force, but I was the who was like one pinky, one little toe at a time down the steps into the shallow end of the pool, and then I was like, okay, this is nice. And then once my body warmed up, I moved a little bit further in, which made it good in some ways because people didn't really like have to question it as much. People were just like, oh yeah, Astrud is into guys, like cool. Unfortunately, and things never worked out with that guy. He was really flirtatious, but I was never able to. He played my mind really badly. I mean, I played my mind really badly, but he definitely made it worse. Same thing, like things like being around me and being like, yeah, I think I'm probably bi, and then when I'm like obviously like infatuated with him. My parents are cool with it for the most part. My mom loves drag. My mom thinks it's great. My mom watches RuPaul's Drag Race and will like ask me, you know, like, oh, did you watch the last episode? And I'm like, no, I'm like 2 weeks behind. She used to come out to all my shows when I first started. She doesn't anymore because I perform so often, and she's an old woman, and she's like, sorry, I gotta get to sleep. It was a little bit different about me being gay. I think that overall I'm very privileged for the reactions that I got from my friends and family. I didn't have to deal with any extreme levels of homophobia. Because I've been naturally queer and out there and flamboyant and whatever myself my whole life, people weren't surprised when I started doing drag. They were like, oh yeah, like Marcus is doing drag now, like, obviously, duh, you know? And of course they're great at it. Like, of course that's like totally something, that's like, they were meant to do that. And it really felt like that way when I started doing drag. I was like, oh, this is like what I am absolutely made to do, like 100%. All my life skills that I've been gathering up to this moment just kind of like collide into this perfect like set of skills.
You mentioned your mother. Is there a father figure in your picture?
Yeah, I have a stepfather. We don't have the greatest relationship. He is kind of part of my, I feel like has contributed to my gender dysphoria. I mean, he definitely pushed a masculine perspective onto me for a long time that I didn't really connect with. I'm still mad at him to this day. He used to, you know, I used to have to mow the lawn, and I was really, I had bad asthma, and so I would like be mowing the lawn and have to stop and come inside and get some water and like, you know, get my breath control back as I'm out there like literally cannot breathe, and he would yell at me and be like, oh, just want to just man up and get out there and do it. And he didn't mean it in that like literally man up, but that's also what the phrase means. And it definitely had that effect on me. And I even remember back then thinking like, why the f*** do I have to man? What does that even mean? Like man up. It just completely baffled me that anybody would say that to anybody, or that anybody would say that to me. But he'd been saying that to me in a lot of different contexts growing up. And I feel like I did a lot of sports and masculine things growing up, and those things were always a struggle for me. Not that I wasn't good at them, except for soccer. I was awful at soccer. To this day, I'm still upset that I'm not good at soccer. So I really want to be good at soccer, but things like I got put on the boys' team, and I just didn't want to be on the boys' team. Like, why wasn't I allowed to be on the girls' team? That's where I felt like I should have been. Like, why wasn't I allowed? I did tap class once. And I did tap lessons for a week, and I was the only boy in the tap room, and yet they made me wear a different costume and made me have different choreography, and I had to be like a different character like in the group. I was like, why can't I just be one of the girls? Why can't I just do the same? We all have tap shoes on. We all have feet. You know what I mean? Like, why are you making me do different shit? And I think that's part of the reason why I started gravitating towards certain art forms that didn't rely so much on that gender division. At least we are allowed to do the same things. You know what I mean? At least I could be in the cello class with all of the female cellists playing the cello with everybody else. Same thing with piano. Okay, all my music teachers were women. All was another thing. My cello teacher was a woman. My percussion teacher who taught me to play the drum set was a woman. I had a very feminine experience as a musician, and that was another thing that really put me off when I went to college, is suddenly I'm just surrounded by men everywhere.
Has there been any adjustment periods for your friends with things like how you doll yourself up?
Yeah, you know, as much as a lot of my friends were really supportive of me, like, doing all this drag stuff, a lot of my friends just weren't into it. Like, it's not that they didn't support me. Like, a lot of my old friends, like a lot of my music friends, are just not interested in drag. They're just, it doesn't affect them that much. I'm not as connected with a lot of my old friends as I used to be, and I still love them, and I want to hang out with them, but it's hard when I'm doing drag all the time, and I want to hang out with my friend Reed, and I want to hang out with my friend Ethan. A lot of my friends have also moved to other cities.
Has there been any other milestones or goals in the process that have made you feel more confident and comfortable with yourself?
Yeah. There's a couple of those. Like, all recently, like, in this year. So in May, I won the Boulet Brothers Dragula World competition. So if you know anything about Dragula, it is a TV show that celebrates alternative drag based on the three tenets of filth, glamour, and horror. It is sort of an anti-drag race, an anti-RuPaul's Drag Race. It's very different in a lot of ways, but fundamentally, it's supposed to be an alternative option for people who want to experience drag in the reality TV world. And so they did a competition during DragCon weekend in May. I think it was, early May. That was like the live, like, pageant adaptation of what the show is. Before it was ever a TV show, they did it in the bars, and it was an every month thing, and they took it on tour around the country and crowned multiple different people before the TV show existed. And then so this was after season 2, and my drag mother Dolly was on season 2, and so I was like, well, I should go to DragCon. I should do this competition. Like, it'd be fun. My mom was on the show. Like, I probably won't do very well, but I'll put together a cool look. And I know a lot of the Dragula girls already. They've shown me a lot of support. Like, let's just, hang out and do this competition and see what happens. And I was started in the top 20, and then suddenly I was in the top 10, and then out of nowhere I was in the top 3. And when that moment happened, I was like, wait a second, like, I could win this whole competition. And I ended up destroying it. No hesitation, completely killed it and took the crown, no problem. And won $1,000 and special consideration on season 3 for Dragula. So that's been a huge platform for me. And I'm incredibly thankful for it and the Boulet Brothers, because that has completely transformed my life in these last couple of months. I dropped out of school because drag was starting to take over, and I wanted to pursue some opportunities that I felt school would have limited me from having. And I'm happy I did it, because since then I've been flown out to San Francisco, I've been flown out to New York, LA, Boston. I've gotten to see the country, and I have more of those things coming up this month too.
Are there any words that you currently find offensive, or maybe some from childhood that really dragged you down?
Well, I would say the man up thing that I spoke on earlier was a very... the man up thing was a very degrading, confusing thing for me. And I still, again, like I said, I really hold on to that as something that changed the way I thought about myself. There were other things. I got called all the generic shit in high school. I got faggot, Skittles, whatever. I was so set on being straight at the time, and obviously that was a coping mechanism. Now I realize. So that was my defense when anybody called me a name, was, fuck you, I'm straight. Screw you. Like, I was very defensive and very, about it. Love gay people, but fuck you, I'm not gay. was basically my my response to those types of situations. And it was actually really hard when I started to come out to myself, because I almost felt that I was validating the people who had bullied me when I was younger. There are times that I remember me crying, thinking, they were right. They were right the whole time. I was wrong. The people who made fun of me and with me, they were right. And another thing that it made me think about was, man, if I don't even know that I'm gay, like, what else am I lying to myself about? You know, what else am I? You know, what other things that I think I know about myself are really just constructions and like things that have been predetermined by my my environment that I grew up in and society.
What kind of struggles have you faced in public with your gender identity?
My experience being like visibly genderqueer has been limited to mostly safe-ish spaces. I still go into convenience stores to grab a fucking Monster, and I still fill up gas in my car when I'm in drag. Like, I do those kinds of things. I definitely project a lot of a high amount of confidence. There's a lot of overconfidence when I walk into a shop, because I'm just like so afraid of being harassed that I'm like, oh, these people need to know not to with me when I walk in the door. You know what I mean? So I stomp into that Circle K.
There was no specific instances where you've been
a victim?
Yes.
Of a hate crime? No. I'm very lucky. And so if I'm in an area where I don't feel safe, I'll often ask for somebody else to go with me, to help me out, just to walk with me, because it's easy to start taking your safety for granted when you go through long periods of time where you aren't harassed, especially like if you're in a liberal-ish place. Like, I spend a lot of time downtown where things are more accepting, and even in gay spaces or queer spaces, like, people can still walk into those places. I don't really believe there's such thing as a safe space. I think it's kind of a deceptive, evil word, because you can't have a safe space unless that space is heavily monitored and has limited access.
So what's next for you? Any upcoming plans, goals?
Yeah, I have a lot of upcoming plans and goals. I have music that I've been working on. Like I mentioned before, I'm a professional musician, so I'm writing, recording, producing music. I play in a band called Hyperbella as well, and so we're putting out an album in March. That's Hyperbella. It's like a neo-soul, jazz, fusion, indie, rock, madness band. Very good music. I play drums in that group. But I also have my own solo project that I play upright bass and I sing. And I write all the music and lead the group. And then I'll be doing a lot of traveling this year. I'll be going to DragCon this year. Oh yeah, I'm going to be in Seattle in early May. So I'm traveling all around the country. And past that, I don't think I'm not able to say. I gotta keep some things under wraps. You know what I mean?
If you were to be given the opportunity to tell your younger self one word of advice, what would it be?
I would tell myself that I do know what's best for me. I would tell myself that you have to follow your gut, and your instinct is what is going to make you successful when you're older. And you can't let anybody tell you what they think you're supposed to do. Because every time that you do that, it doesn't work out for you. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. Because you are no stranger to picking up new skills and trying new things. So don't put the dress away.
What would be one message you'd leave to little boys and girls going through similar situations?
You know, everybody's experience with gender and sexuality is completely different. I would say that I have similar advice to anyone, and it's honestly, you have to go with your instincts. You have to you can't be afraid of yourself. Don't be afraid of not only who you are, but don't be afraid of having a conversation with yourself. You know, look at a mirror, talk to yourself, talk to God, whoever you need to talk to a good friend, But at the end of the day, it's not your friend that's going to make you who you are, it's you. So, pep talk yourself, you know? I can only get you this far.